Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bimhuis TV, and welcome to the beautiful Bimhuis. It's just an honor to sit here with these super hyper talented musicians. First of all, Rafael Devante Sinay of the band Smandem, and of course the wonderful Fuensanta Méndez, who you've just heard with her Grande Ensemble. Ensemble Grande, I'm very sorry. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about the roots and the routes of Amsterdam jazz or Dutch jazz versus, your influences from all over the world. But especially this panel is, it's an important topic to discuss is social justice. But before that, Fuensanta, did you enjoy your set?
So much. I'm still cooling down, to be honest.
Is it good to play live again?
My God, especially with these people. Uh,
I can imagine. And Raf, how about you? Did soundcheck go well?
Soundcheck went perfect.
Yeah?
I love this place. Yeah, Bimhuis is always a very warm place for me.
So are you looking forward to your set tonight?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yes.
Great. So, guys, I mean, there's so much to talk about. But first, let's talk about Amsterdam. Amsterdam for me and for a lot of people around the world, but also here in Holland. I mean, Amsterdam has this sense of freedom. It's very the characteristic thing about Amsterdam. It's its cosmopolitan character and it's free character. Fuen, how does that resonate in your music?
well, first of all, I would say I've been lucky to meet all these people, like the people in my band and many others that I could not fit on stage, of course, that come from all over the world. And this has, of course, also led me to know music and culture that I would not normally be in close contact with. I say normally as if it is not normal that I'm here, but I think I have found a lot of roots in different places that are not only Mexico, and a lot of that is because I am so close to people who are from all over the world. And then it turns out that many of these fibers that feel like folkloric or as original culture, maybe they have different nuances and different presentation cards, say, but they're all connected to a similar thing. And yeah, this is kind of the pool that we drink from, I think.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. I'm still going down.
I know.
I try not to get too esoterical.
No, it's great. It's
Okay.
great. Raf, how about you? I mean, you guys you just put out a record, an EP, your first EP with Smandem, your band. What I hear is that real Amsterdam sound, that sense of freedom in
Oh.
your music.
Thank you. It's crazy that you think there's an Amsterdam sound. I'm very happy to hear that. That's something that we strive for. Being in Amsterdam is actually perfect for me. It feels like what you just said, cosmopolitan city, and me being from half Moluccan home and half Bolivian home. I need that multicultural energy, and here I find it everywhere. I live in Belmer. There are numerous ethnicities going on there. You can eat whatever you want from wherever you want. And if you go to the city, you can shop from different kind of creatives from different ethnicities. And it's just all here. And I think for an artist that creates some more liberty to choose what you're going to take and choose what you're going to be inspired by.
Right. I mean, like you said, I mean, your ethnicity is very diverse. Fuen, you're from Veracruz in Mexico,
Right.
but you have a band from all over the world also.
Yeah.
How does that influence your? Is that a very how do you say conscious choice to have this globalism represented in your music?
Actually, I would say it's a conscious choice, but it's not a choice on purpose. Like, it's conscious because I'm aware of that happening, but these are just the people I was drawn to artistically and personally, and we are very close friends, and we share, I think, a lot of values in music and aesthetics in general. And this is was just natural for me. I didn't think, oh, I don't have anyone from Brazil. Let me get someone in here. That's just how it happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, Raf?
You mean the band members?
Yeah. I mean, you guys are friends, I suppose.
Yeah, super good friends. For me, it was something very unique. I went to conservatory, and well, actually, in conservatory, people of color are very underrepresented. So, what are the odds that I meet two other guys that have the same background as me? And yeah, I feel very lucky and privileged that I can share with those guys this culture thing that we have, the same history, so to speak, and those background things, and keep it alive in between us, but in a new form. Yeah, it's really super nice. And also shout out to David, who's not half Moluccan, but now he is a little.
All right, David, you know. You just touched base on a subject, and you did as well during your set, social justice. I mean, there are lots of global social justice issues that have come to the forefront during this pandemic. For example, you know, like Black Lives Matter movements and a whole bunch of other movements. But Fuen, you touched on a subject that's very close to your heart, which is violence against women in Mexico. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, what happens is that it's outrageous.
Of course.
And at the same time, now there is a very strong movement to stand against this outrageous violence. And I think so. Now there is also a lot more. I'm back with everyone. Okay, there is an outrageous increasing of violence all the time right now in Mexico. It has been always a place with sexism problems, like most of the world, but then also in recent years it became more violent, and it has been really evident that the current power structure in there does not protect women. And right now the death rate of people also who are murdered from someone in their households, like as domestic violence, is really high. And there is a very high rate of impunity as well. Most women don't get a result when they denounce what happened to them, and is really corrupt. So in this sense, there's also a lot of young women and older now gathering in eye-opening that we have to kind of take care of each other, and that this is not acceptable. And even things I think maybe we saw as normal 5 years ago are really being questioned right now, but there's still a lot to go.
Right. Does that influence your artistic process? Does that rage and that you know, that responsibility you feel to speak out against these things, does that come back into your way of composing music?
I'm not sure if in the way of composing music, but for sure in my artistic endeavor, say, or in my musical endeavor, I have felt many times that in this industry that is still very much male-dominated, I felt like it was almost my responsibility to do my best to be present whenever there was an opportunity for me to be present. Like, say, there's this nice thing that you could do, and then if I don't do it, I have felt sometimes, oh no, go, there's not enough women there. And sometimes in that sense, I do things that it doesn't feel like it's only for me. It's more like I just feel like there should be some women around there doing it. So it pushes me also to make some things happen. And I think I also really embrace this, I don't want to say vulnerability, because that's a little bit cliche, as if women were more vulnerable than men, and that's exactly the problem. Like, there's also not enough space for men to be vulnerable in the patriarchal structure, but kind of this whole feeling of not wanting to necessarily fit in a medium that has not been welcoming for women, also in a way, once I acknowledge it, gives me a lot of space to just go and do my own thing, because anyway, I'm not going to fit in that particular stereotype that was expected from the musician. You understand what I mean?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Very much. How do you think about these issues, Raf? Do you relate?
Yeah, I think it's very clear that in our field of work, also it's a pretty male-dominant, field of work,
Yeah.
so to speak, right? We on our EP had featured two female artists, and that was our way maybe of dealing with this. But we're still on our journey to see how we can deal more with these problems. So I'm very happy to hear that you are so active with it.
Yeah,
It's beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Absolutely, absolutely. How do social justice issues resonate with you guys? I mean, you're young, you're multicultural, you're diverse, you live in Amsterdam, you're a musician.
Yeah. As just a person of this generation, you're always aware of what is happening in the world. And for example, you said something about Black Lives Matters, right? When that happened, it really was like some type of crossroads, like it either goes this way or that way. And all this collective consciousness about what is right and what way we have to go is really motivating for us as well to embrace more and more of our own background instead of trying to adapt to an ideal image of what people expect from you. And if you don't look like that image, then they are very prejudiced. And in our music, we don't write lyrics, so we cannot really refer to that right now. But what we do is we just take things from music that is not Western or complex European harmonies or whatever, but we take maybe simpler stuff that we felt that was always looked down upon, but we take it serious and we embrace it. It's just part of who we are.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. I mean, you know, I remember that we were talking beforehand on Zoom, and we had a quite a conversation about this. I mean, this conversation is only 30 minutes, but we spoke for almost 2 hours, maybe, about all these issues. And one of the things that I wanted to touch base on is a quote from you, Fuensanta, if you permit me to. You mentioned at a certain point, you said like we need to start thinking in terms of decolonizing music. Do you remember that?
Yeah, this was because Rafael was explaining precisely this, of kind of uplifting or maybe validating somehow some forms of musical expression that are not necessarily Caucasian European, right? Like Western
jazz,
classical
maybe?
music. Well, but I mean, jazz is a strange animal in this sense, is it
Yes.
not? So this kind of thing of, he talked about embracing, okay, this is bachata, okay, this has, so then it also, because you talked about it not being intellectual and saying it's equally valid, right?
I talked about this, about one of the examples that we had was playing it in a class, something that sounds fairly simple, but it's just part of our generation. So also part of who we are, like trap, drill, reggaeton or bachata, and then people would not really know how to react on it. And it was always awkward. And so we could either choose to, okay, be ashamed of this moment and not listen to that again, or go the other way and embrace it, and fully embrace it, and also show other people the beautiful sides of it that they don't know and learn them how to react to trap or drill or whatever.
This, Sorry.
No.
Can
Please.
This makes me think of something Gabriel was saying the other day. Gabriel, who sang with me now in my band, that about music not having to have a development. And actually, it's really interesting because I think Western music, Western classical music, that's even a funny term, but kind of has a lot of its value also in development, and it's beautiful and incredible. And there's so many other ways of making music that actually don't need to be developing a thing, that they are about staying in a world like a lot of West African music or most kind of folkloric. So that made me think that maybe that's one thing that makes us feel like, oh, can we stay there forever if we have this idea of...
Maybe because they forgot that those music or old folkloric music wasn't made to, like you have a record and it has a beautiful development. It's almost like a movie, like Hollywood. And I think maybe before in ancient times, people just made music because they expressed how they were feeling while living on this planet at the place and time they were living. And then they don't need that Hollywood kind of thing.
It's funny you said, I mean, you mentioned music styles that influence you guys. I mean, you just mentioned trap, reggaeton, bachata. You mentioned your folkloric roots. And you also said, like, jazz is actually a very weird organism, or, Black American music. And there's another quote from you, Fuensanta. You said, like, all right, so is Black American music, or jazz, or how you want to call it, I prefer to call it Black American music, is that the soup or one of the ingredients of your music?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what I think. I said that it was a soup, not an ingredient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But is Black American music then your soup, really?
It's part of my soup.
Yeah.
It's the soup inside my soup.
Tell me about it.
I don't know exactly what to say.
I mean, how are you inspired by I mean, what makes it Black American music then, your soup? Do you think?
I mean, I have definitely fed and from this music since I was really young, and still do, amongst others, but it has been a very important part of my life to play jazz and all kind of things around its spectrum. In the end, it's a word that doesn't have rough edges, and I think that's okay, that it doesn't make sense to try to put rough edges around it. But I also then developed as an improviser, so even when I write songs that are like pop songs, or, well, in that sense, folkloric music is also very improvised. Like where I come from, Veracruz, the folkloric music is son jarocho. And that also has no fixed melodies, no fixed lengths necessarily, in the sense of improvising over a form all the time. And that has really shaped me in my way of approaching music. And I think possibly jazz has more to do with the way of approaching music than a specific aesthetic. I mean, I might be wrong. I don't think there's right or wrong. I'm sure some people might disagree, and that's totally fair. I mean, but this is how I experience my own playing through jazz music.
Right. Is it your soup as well, Rafael?
I'm a bit confused. What does the soup say? Can you define soup? What is the ingredient?
I don't know. I mean, is jazz or Black American music somewhere the soup that you guys make in your music, or is it just one of the ingredients that you add to the process of making music to make what you make, to make your art?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure if I can define the right answer to it for all of us. But if I have to answer now, maybe it's an ingredient, and we try to make a different soup. And that soup reflects how we see the world, and the jazz ingredient is one of the ingredients.
I would like to clarify something.
Oh, tell me, Fuen.
For me, the reason why I say it's a soup and not an ingredient, it's because it's not like jazz is this solid thing that's made of only itself. Jazz is in itself a form of syncretism that is so full of different things that doesn't, like it also feeds itself from previous things, future things. I mean, and all sorts of geographical influences. So when I say it's a soup, I mean that
Yeah.
it's full of different ingredients already.
I agree with that. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, just to get to the soup quote. Yeah.
We touched on a whole bunch of subjects on social justice, on your music. I mean, if there were like two artists or one artist that has really inspired you, and it doesn't need to be a musician, it could be from literature or from whatever, who would that be, Rafael?
I think I need some.
Clarifying question.
I think I need some time to answer that. Do you have your answer already?
Hey, it's so hard to choose one.
Yeah.
This is I know it's unfair, but I'm getting my signals that we only have
Okay.
4 minutes left.
I can talk about someone.
Tell me.
Especially for this band, I have really been influenced by Totola Momposina. She's a Colombian singer. And that's also, I think, a nice thing to bring up right now. Because
Absolutely.
Colombia is going through a crazy moment in which their people are fighting really hard to get their rights being heard, and they're being really oppressed. So I would like to dedicate this moment to the Colombian people and Totola Momposina, who has blessed me since I was a young girl. Yeah.
And how about you, Raf?
I think I have to say Kanye West.
Tell me.
Just when I look at all his work, at this discography, is that how you say it? I think he's just a complete artist. His vision is so strong. He does whatever he wants, like making clothing, making movies, short movies, being an art director. This shows me that his inspiration goes further than only the marketing of his music. It's really an expression of his inspiration and his skill and his gift, and the way he switches from time to time from style. Like he has old school records, but he has also R&B, love ballad records, to completely progressive. I don't know how you can call it, and they're all in their own way masterpieces, and that's something that's very inspirational for me. I would like to have that vision and creativity to just paint whatever you want to paint.
I think that's a beautiful ending, a beautiful quote to end with. Rafael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much good luck with your set later tonight. Fuensanta, muchas gracias. Thank you very much for your activism, for your wise words, and for your music. And I'm pretty sure we're going to hear much more about you two soon. Thank you.
Bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.